This how-to video will show how to investigate a possible pressure leak in your pressure myograph system. You will need your big bin manometer. You will need the calibration shunt and a pair of forceps. Place the calibration shunt on your chamber, bypassing the cannulas. The possible causes of a pressure leak is either cuts in the tubing along the system, the O-rings in the bottle caps, a blown pressure transducer inside the chamber, or the three-way valves on each side of the pressure chamber. Start by investigating the O-rings in each cap of the bottles on the interface. Loosen the cap, and we're going to look at the O-ring that's in this cap. Take your forceps and actually pull this O-ring out of the cap. You want to look and make sure that there are no cracks in the O-ring. If there is a crack, that means that pressure is escaping and will be the cause of your pressure leak. If the O-ring looks good, put it back in the cap and tighten the cap securely on top of the bottle. Do the same process for the P1 cap. This O-ring is also good. It can go back in the cap and replace the cap on the bottle. You will always want to make sure that your caps are securely tightened on the bottles. After you check the O-rings, check the chamber next. Place the big bin manometer on the open port of your P1 three-way valve. Make sure that it is open to the chamber and close the P2 three-way valve to the chamber. Add pressure, but do not go over 200 millimeters of mercury. It should be holding perfectly steady. If there is any drop at all, you know you have a pressure leak in the chamber. Now that we know we have a pressure leak in the chamber, we will need to start isolating different sections. What you can do is you can pinch the tubing of the calibration shunt. We will add pressure again. And if it was holding now, then we know that the pressure leak is beyond where we have pinched the tubing. This would suggest that either the P1 pressure transducer is blown or there's a leak in the internal tubing of the chamber. If you have performed a pressure calibration, you should contact your DMT representative to let them know that you have a pressure leak near the P1 pressure transducer. The three-way valves on the pressure chamber can be broken if the chamber is accidentally bumped into the bench or the microscope or anything else. If you think you have a leak in the three-way valve, you should connect the big bin manometer to an open port and then close the three-way valve to that port. Add pressure and it should hold very steady. If it does, then the internal seal is still good, and that is not the cause of your leak. If the pressure falls after you add this pressure, you can check and make sure that the plastic piece is securely tightened. If it is tightened and you still have your leak, then you need to replace your three-way valve. If you were to close the P2 three-way valve to the chamber and add pressure and it holds steady, then you know that your chamber is not the cause of your pressure leak and that the leak is after the chamber. Open the P2 three-way valve and you see that we have our pressure leak. To investigate the pressure leak after the chamber, you need to pinch the tubing that's going to the P2 bottle on your interface. Add pressure, and you see that pressure is still falling. We know that the leak is not in the chamber and it is before the P2 bottle. Now we will pinch the tubing before it goes into the interface. Add pressure, and we see that we are still losing our pressure, which means that the leak is not in the interface, the leak is in the tubing or the P2 three-way valve. You can replace the tubing or you can check the P2 three-way valve. Connect your big bin manometer to the P2 three-way valve and close the valve. Add pressure and you see that it is holding very steady. That means you have a leak in your tubing between the interface and your P2 three-way valve. Replace this tubing. In order to test the new tubing, you still need to pinch the tubing going to the P2 bottle. Add pressure, and you see that after replacing the tubing, pressure is now holding very well. It is very unlikely because this tubing is very rarely handled, but it is possible to have a pressure leak in this tubing on your interface. As a last resort, you should try to replace the tubing going from ports 2, 3, 4, and 5 to the interface top. If you are still experiencing trouble with the pressure leak, please contact your DMT representative for support.